Let's bring in Augustus. How you doing, Augustus? What's new?
I'm blessed, dude. I'm back in Gundo for a spell rather than
Fantastic.
the Near East or the mountains of the Rockies. It's been a vibe. It's been sunny and warm, which has been different for Rainmakers the last 4 months.
That's
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
wherever you guys go, it gets cold. It starts snowing, raining. It's a tough life.
yeah. I mean,
But
this looks
somebody's got
kind
to
of
do
like
it.
I haven't watched the SBF prison interview, but you kind of have a prison vibe going on behind you. But I like it. Maybe we get some drywall behind you on the next one.
Yeah,
But we
Yeah.
were talking about you earlier because Luke Metro's in Arena Magazine talking about how everyone wants to reindustrialize America, but nobody wants to work in a factory. And I feel like you've made working in a factory cool. Can you break down your current factory stack? Where are you sleeping? Can we get you on an 8 sleep soon?
Dude, it's so funny you say that. We decided like a month ago, okay, we're big enough now. We're hiring like serious scientists. We're bringing government people through. No more bunk beds in the
Yep.
factory.
Okay.
So the room that I'm in now used to have four bunk beds in it. The room over there used to have two bunk beds in it. A
Yeah.
lot of the dropouts and engineers were living here. We had a tradition for a bit where if you moved from across the country, you either had to live in your car in the parking lot or in one of the bunk beds.
that's
So
amazing.
that
That's
was
fantastic.
why while it lasted.
The peanut gallery on X is gonna start saying, "Oh, it's time to short Rainmaker. They don't sleep in the office
It's
anymore.
not a
They're too
barracks
legit. They're too
anymore."
legit. They have too many government officials coming in to try to get their bit, to try to work with them."
It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, but at the very least, we're staying in Gundo, like some other unnamed Gundo companies that have gone.
Uh-oh, a little
Oh,
bit of
oh,
drama. A little
scoop,
bit of drama.
scoop. No, we don't
Well,
need to put
I,
them
I
on
I
the.
always thought that Gundo was like the place that you could eventually graduate out of because once you need 100,000 square feet, like it's just not. It's just it is a small city. So I'm rooting for the Gundo incubations that go on to do greater things and eventually need to expand and eventually rename whole cities in Texas. That's what I hope for you. But can you give me the quick, like the latest pitch on how you're describing Rainmaker? I know it's evolved a little bit. What's the core product that you're selling right now?
Yeah, so Rainmaker is making Earth habitable by making it precipitate more rain and more snow
Mm-hmm.
in arid environments. So farms that don't have enough water, ecosystems that need to be restored, and cities in arid regions that need water. We're making that happen with advanced remote sensing, so radar, lidar, satellite data. We're using open source stuff and some things of our own that we're going to tease a little bit later in the
Mm-hmm.
month. Our own radar to find the right clouds to seed and then fly our own severe weather resistant and anti-icing capable drones into those clouds, spraying a mineral called silver iodide that freezes the liquid in the cloud into big enough snowflakes so that they fall and stay as snow, or if it's warm beneath the cloud, melt back into rain.
Mm-hmm. How many drones have you crashed?
uh, Between you, me, and not the Federal Aviation Administration. No, we've crashed dozens of drones. We have one corporate value at Rainmaker, and it's that we like the taste of blood in our mouth. And that's sort of an extension of like the Elon thing about chewing glass. It's kind of just a bummer, right? And like building a deep tech company is especially hard. But if you Pavlov yourself into loving interfacing with reality in such a way that you get like good feedback, you learn how you failed, you learn what to do better next time. You end up with a bunch of people kind of like Rocky, that like just fight harder and do better the more they get punched in the face. And so we've crashed a lot of drones on snowy, wet, cold mountaintops, and everyone's better for it.
What's the balance like now for you in the field, doing the engineering work, building the actual product, selling, and then government stuff? You're in a suit, you're testifying, you're shaking your head when someone's, espousing a conspiracy theory about you. We've seen the viral clips. How do you balance those two things?
Yeah, I'm going back to Tennessee
Okay.
this year because they're actually trying to elevate the punishment for weather modification to a criminal offense. And in addition to that, I'm going to go to Florida. Rainmaker has
Arson's legal now, but if you want to make it rain,
Yeah.
we're putting you in
I
jail.
mean, I think you'd be just as productive in prison. Like you're already kind of in prison. You'd just be more locked in. It'd be a minor setback if they lock you up.
yeah,
I'm sure the rest of your bros would like break you out in some heroic scheme.
or you can make calls like a Don from the prison, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, yeah, I guess going off of that big question for me is weather modification is so charged. You're in this beautiful situation where you piss off you piss off people in the center. Sometimes you piss off people on the left, people on the right, people on the right might say, that's, it's just wrong to be changing the weather or have some concerns there. People on the left are just, maybe anti-science sometimes. How has it been trying to thread the needle? Obviously, you're not trying to make everybody happy, but you need to get people generally bought into what you're doing to make things happen.
Dude, water's a nonpartisan issue. Whether you want ecosystems restored or you want more water for your farm or you want urban development in your city, we want to bring you water. We can bring water more cost effectively than even desalination. And then when it comes to like the real fringe edges, because everybody in the middle is bought into that mission of abundance, right? For whatever their particular issue is. I personally believe that like Genesis 1:26, it's the first commission that God gives man at the beginning of time is to steward the earth, the seas, and the skies. Rainmaker is trying to embody that value set and be good stewards of the world as we take dominion over the skies. And so that plays to some extent with the more tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists on the right. And when it comes to the left, some people think that like, anytime you modify anything on the planet, humans always make it worse. And that's just like not true. But even if you believe it to be the case, like we've messed up the planet so badly already, we might as well take deliberate action to try to repair it. And so people on the far left are generally more game with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
What are some of the most ambitious projects and places? Obviously, we went out to what was that place out in the desert we went to?
Salton Sea.
The Salton Sea. That was a really cool case study. Are there other kind of like long-term projects that you think are kind of on the bucket list that you want to make amazing one day?
Yeah, the Great Salt Lake is in a deficit of about 500,000 acre feet of water per year.
Mm-hmm.
The Bear River is the primary tributary into the Great Salt Lake, and it has mountains with lots of juicy clouds from Utah to Wyoming to Idaho, all that flow into it. I think that restoring the Great Salt Lake is like an American priority and a must. And even more interestingly than that, something in the distant future for Rainmaker is the Winter Olympics in 2034 are going to be held in Salt Lake.
Okay.
And China in 2008 had this whole big show and dance where they made it rain before the parades. So it didn't rain on the Olympic Games. Yep. We want to show a force a decade from now to make more fresh pow for all the Olympic Games in Salt Lake.
Nice. Speaking of China, I think the first time I ever met you, you mentioned, you came in just like completely, just aggressively telling me that China was reforesting the Gobi Desert by planting a bunch of trees. That's obviously not your business, but like, is anyone working on that? That feels important if you're really thinking about like terraforming certain parts of America and like reclaiming and just improving different biomes. Like, how does that play in? Is that just a different startup? Do we need another company to build that? Is that something that you would eventually expand into? How does that all play into this like whole plan?
Yeah, Rainmaker long-term is the terraforming company, right? We want to take any ecosystem and make it both symbiotically flourishing for humankind and the environment. There's no companies that I know of doing reforestation, although there's a bunch of university labs that are spraying seeds from drones. Really cool, weird, clever thing where when the seed hits water, it unravels and sort of acts as like a little natural drill to drill the seed into the ground. Okay. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen it commercialized yet. And someday I do want Rainmaker in the business of all sorts of different terraforming stuff, like planting trees, literally boiling the ocean, by the way. If you boil enough of the ocean, then you can create more clouds. So we'll
heard it here first.
There's a metaphor
Augustus
there.
Is boiling the ocean.
Boiling the ocean.
Eventually.
We'll talk to you in 20 years when you're still grinding at this, being like, yeah, I'm still trying to boil the ocean.
Yeah. One, I just have to say, I feel like I've seen pretty much the entire Augustus arc. Obviously met you right after you were graduating in New York. You were fixated on this problem from our very first conversation. I always, and it's been amazing to watch and be a small investor. You have found you've shown the perfect ability to balance attention and progress, right? So many people would have said Augustus is so good at getting attention that it's almost bearish, right? Because founders can get on this sort of negative feedback or sort of positive that feedback loop that becomes negative, where they're so good at posting and they're so good at the internet that they just get sort of fixated on that, and then that becomes their sort of dimension of progress. How have you balanced sort of yapping and building? I want to give you credit for not being at a lot of the popular events over the last year, right? There was, multiple of the events that we went to were places that I know you got an invite and I know you turned down. What does the next, 2-3 years look like for you in terms of balancing, yapping, knowing that you need to be making, massive forward progress on the business as well?
To give credit where credit is due, it was in no small part Coogan's shot that was called, where he said, like, listen, you guys are going to get out over your skis and seem like even more of a bunch of goofballs than you actually in fact are. And so we deliberately decided about the middle of last year just to kind of go like media blackout. And I've talked to a bunch of my employees that have said, like, yeah, I worked at other companies where the founder was a really big yapper, and yes, you need to be an evangelist, but then like the founder doesn't know some like fundamental crux of the tech problem, and the company blows up because of that. And so we were talking about like our publication strategy and some media stuff, and we gave it to our PR people, and they were like, hey, can you dumb it down and make this less technical? And the funny part about that was, like, our science team already told us, like, you guys are going to make us seem like idiots if you and so we've done extraordinary things, particularly in the last 5 months. And I'm so proud to work with the people that I do. And, not to be like a coming soon guy, but in the end of this month in April, we're going to start to unveil the products and the progress that we've made across the entire Western United States. And then I've alluded to online the Middle East a little bit. We've done some stuff there.
Nice.
No,
actually,
and the progress.
The Fox Business Pod was taken from a mountaintop in the Middle East, and I didn't share that live. That was fun.
That's amazing.
That's cool.
When I read your last investor update, I genuinely was shocked because people don't have any. I don't think the average person has any sense of how much you guys, how much progress you guys, have made in the last year and a half. It's really incredible.
Yeah. Narrative violation.
Yeah. Not for Augustus.
Not for Augustus, but yeah, I mean,
for the peanut gallery.
Yeah, the peanut gallery. But that's why the show exists, to
what I want to get into some
gallery.
I want to get into some of the bigger, sort of more important questions. What are you benching these days?
Dude,
I imagine it's gonna be like the last time I lifted. Like, you bring an intensity to weightlifting that is inspirational. I don't even know if have you ever gotten a proper lift with Augustus?
I haven't.
Like, he's going in there.
I've seen the rack in the office.
He's bringing the same intensity that he brings to building to every single set.
But it's hard when you're traveling. It's always hard to get in the gym when you're traveling. So break it down. How's it going?
Dude, so yeah, like I said, this is a medium. I'm like 37 pounds lighter than when I started Rainmaker. And that's mostly muscle. So I don't think my 1 rep maxes are what they used to be, but we still have the smelling salts on the rack downstairs. So
I was telling John woke up Monday like deathly ill. And I was saying we need to get smelling salts just here on the set, so that if we need to really,
we need a podcast with the same intensity that Augustus builds, hard tech.
Exactly.
Dude,
of course.
I would rip Lucy smelling salt.
We actually got some in the office back in like 2016, 2017 when we were building the company, and it's a wild ride if you haven't done the smelling salts. It's intense.
What area of the broader hard tech industry are you most excited about? Obviously, you're 100% locked in, but I'd be curious, like, what is the space that, when you're sort of looking left or right, what's most exciting? I know that on a long enough time horizon, I'm sure you plan to enter many of those spaces, but in the near term, what are you excited about?
Fission. You might not be very surprised, but my dear friend Isaiah Taylor is absolutely kicking ass when it comes to nuclear. And I think blowing the lid off a lot of people's expectations about how long it takes to build a reactor to get power positive. I also think, like, a really important point, when you brought up before how you do publicity, how you do media. The Valor Atomics Ward Zero unveiling was an incredible event, and the aesthetics were off the charts. And like a lot of people said, oh, look at the facade, like that's so over the top.
Sure.
But also, if hard tech isn't cool, I think something that people don't understand about the Gundo is like it's been a very deliberately engineered aesthetic effort to make hard tech sick. Because if it's not, then everybody's going to end up in finance again. The next generation, the lower class of Zoomers, they're going to end up doing software engineering. So making things incredible and cool, I think, is really important. And then having the technical chops to back it up and unveil a spectacular thermal prototype, like that is really sweet. And I'm excited to go hang out with the tailors in the Philippines to see Ward 1 come online.
It's the future should look like the future, and bringing those aesthetics to bear can have a benefit as long as you're also delivering the real thing and it's not vaporware, right? Is there a new class of Gundo startups that are coming in? Because you built this universe, this cinematic universe that was kind of around you, and whenever there'd be a profile, Isaiah would be there, a couple other guys would be there, the Neros crew, the Pico Grid crew, a couple other folks, Dirac, right? But is there a new edition that we need an update on Gundo, or is there just like a whole separate crew that you're not even overseeing as the godfather of the Gundo?
Dude, yeah. So the Gundo Book Club is a lot of these dudes, rather than being like, I don't know, 23 through 27, they're like 19 through 23, totally different cohort. A lot of cool companies. Teddy
cohort
from Durham finally made it to the Gundo from Georgia. That was really cool. Aries is sick. Chris, what's his last name? Ottoman. He is building subsea vehicles. There's a whole new clique, and we're almost out of touch with us. Part of what made Gundo possible and like the initial vibe real possible was we were all running like pre-seed companies, so we had a lot of time on our hands and kind of just like go around, and so we didn't even get to know these guys as well. But they're a super tight clique, like the original founding group of Gundo bros.
That's cool. What are you thinking about supply chain? There's been a lot of debate over, Chinese drone motors and how hard it is. I mean, I've talked to Anduril guys who are like, there's all sorts of pieces that are just hard to get. I was hearing, I think you were at that talk where someone was highlighting that there's only like one tin smelting factory in America now. And like, it's just like, there's all these weird things where like, you just can't get American made tin, or you can't get American made. So I'm sure you're thinking about that, but also, early stage, it's not super critical immediately to be completely clean supply chain. But what are you seeing as the supply chain develops? And are there any other Gundo companies that you've been able to like kind of build on top of? I know at one point you were saying that like, oh yeah, you just walked across the street, there was a drone company that was helping you build the drones. Can you talk about the supply chain a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is definitely still tough. Rainmaker has the luxury of not being a defense company, so the government requirements that we have are definitely different.
Sure.
I'm still a nationalist and a patriot, though. So in any circumstance where we can buy American or from an American colony like Taiwan, I'm pro. When it comes to like immediate supply chain in Gundo, I think everybody has already or is having a part made by Rangeview from Cameron Schiller's company. And so like having an investment casting foundry right there is pretty sweet. How you get someone to innovate in like winding motors, not totally sure, but like boards, I think actually we are going to see, if not just because of SoftBank's $100 billion that they maybe do or don't have, we will see a lot more of in the United States soon.
Yeah, that's cool. There's one American drone company that does small motors. I think they're up in Seattle, and I think they might have been family owned. They got bought by private equity, and then they shipped off to China. And so my dream is like someone goes in and does the PE and brings it back, because like they clearly had some talent and some kind of core competency here. But I'm sure lots of people are working on it. Jordy, you got another question? Should we let Augustus go?
No big questions. I know you got to get back to work. What are you hiring for right now? How can we help you find them? Who's the most critical next hire?
Thanks. Before even I answer that question, I briefly lived in South Lake, Texas, which is where Quinn Ewers is from. So yes, actually, the QB of UT Austin, I was mistaken for multiple times. I saw that reply.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so I don't know, that was pretty funny. But who am I hiring for? go to makerain.com/careers. What we're interested in most now are radar scientists. So if you've either worked at the low level on board test and qualification or meteorological weather radar, so that's more of like a university grad student position that never thought they'd be able to get into industry because nobody's ever cared about the weather in the private sector. Those are the people that we want most. After that, though, I would say air soil chemists. So if you've worked at Joule, if you've worked at large industrial facilities that are making a lot of smoke, that's of interest. And then government affairs. If you're a seasoned yapper from the Hill, then we'd love to talk to you.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Well, thanks so much for joining, Augustus. You're always welcome on the show whenever
You're
you
the
have
absolute
news.
man. We need one of those quarter zips there. They look fantastic.
Yeah, send them over to the studio.
We'll wear them. Special episodes. Whenever it's raining, we'll wear them.
Yeah, that's good.
Gotcha.
Well, have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon,
Talk soon.
Augustus.
You're the man.
Stay safe out there. Get some rest.